I stood near the back wall of the auditorium, just left of the exit sign, holding a folded card in both hands. The paper was soft from use, edges worn. My son had written it himself, blue ink, all caps, "Front row, Dad. You earned it." That row was maybe 20 feet away. Close enough to see the placards on the seats, mother of graduate. Father. Grandparents. I walked up slow. Not to cause trouble. Just to find my place. My boots scuffed against the polished floor. My jacket, marine issue, hung a little loose on the shoulders these days. It still held its shape. I did not. An usher stepped in my path. "Designated family only," she said. She was maybe 25, headset around her ear, clipboard clutched tight. "I'm sorry, sir. You'll need to step back." I nodded. Handed her the card. "My son wrote this." She glanced at it. "Barely read it." "I understand," she said, voice clipped. "But we have a list. Only those with passes can sit up front. Step back or security will escort you." I looked at the seat. Third from the left. Just like he said. Then I stepped aside. Didn't argue. Didn't plead. I stood against the wall. Alone. The invitation still warm in my hand. The ceremony hadn't even begun yet. And already, I'd been moved to the margins. I didn't blame her. The usher, I mean. She was doing her job. She had rules, a headset, probably a checklist in her hand. I was just a man without a pass. My jacket had no medals. My name wasn't printed on any program. My seat hadn't been reserved, just written in ink on a folded card by a boy who still called me Dad. So I stepped back. I didn't argue. Just eased myself against the side wall. Concrete painted beige. Cold to the touch, like most buildings that were never meant to feel like home. The floor beneath me vibrated slightly, bass from the auditorium speakers warming up, low like a heart beating behind drywall. I folded the note again, carefully, and slid it into the inner pocket of my jacket. I'd worn this jacket more times in silence than I ever had in service. Since coming home, it had been to more funerals than barbecues. Threads were pulling near the cuff. The patch on the shoulder, 1st Marine Division, was faded, but I'd re-stitched it last winter. Just muscle memory, I guess. Some things stay in your hands. My jeans were clean, but worn thin in the knees. Boots scuffed from time. The soles felt the pavement like skin feels cold water. No one asked who I was. I was used to that. It's strange, the things you remember when you're waiting. The way desert sand stings your teeth. The smell of cordite at dawn. The weight of someone else's body when they lean on you, bleeding out. The sound of breath, not yours, but the last one another man takes before it's over. You remember the names. The ones who made it. The ones who didn't. But you forget birthdays. Forget what year it was when the house got sold. Forget your own age sometimes. I'd stopped trying to explain long ago. To employers, to caseworkers, even to my son when he was little. He used to ask about the war. I'd tell him it was hot. Loud. That I came back with a spine that hurts in the cold and a hand that shakes when it shouldn't. But I didn't tell him about Sanjin. About the mud compound burning and the voices on the radio clipped with static and fear. About the day the medevac never came, so I carried them out myself, 2 at a time, breath held, bullets trailing. I didn't tell him that one of them, a lieutenant named Rollins, had screamed the whole way until he passed out in my arms. I didn't say any of that. I just showed up. For every football game. Every parent-teacher night. Every day he needed lunch money or a ride or someone to sit in the car while he figured out who he wanted to be. The Marine Corps taught me to lead. But fatherhood? That was where I learned how to follow his pace, his mood, his quiet. And now he was graduating. My son. The one I'd once held like something fragile. Now walking across a stage to accept a degree he'd earned with sweat and midnight studying and part-time jobs. The invitation he gave me wasn't fancy. Just folded notebook paper. But I'd carried it for weeks. He wanted me there. That was enough. Or should have been. The usher returned briefly. She looked at me, hesitant. Sir, you really can't stand here. We need the side aisles clear. Where do you want me? I asked. There's overflow seating in the back, she said, pointing to a side room with a projector screen. I nodded. But I didn't move. My legs didn't want to move anymore. Not out of stubbornness. Out of something else. The same something that made you go back into a compound when it was burning. The thing that kept you upright when your bones screamed. I don't know what it's called. I just knew I wasn't leaving that hall. So I stayed. Hands behind my back. Posture straight. Eyes forward. Just like they trained me. The music started. A low swell of orchestral notes piped through overhead speakers. The lights dimmed slightly. The room filled with chatter and movement, families adjusting in their seats, phones pulled out, names checked on programs. I remained by the wall. The first wave of graduates entered, marching 2 by 2 down the center aisle, robes brushing their ankles. Applause rolled forward in waves. Some families stood to cheer, camera flashes firing like small bursts of memory trying to keep up. I scanned the line. There he was. Third from the back. Tall, broad-shouldered, chin lifted like I'd told him once, always face forward, even when you're scared. He wore his robe like it weighed nothing. His hands were steady. His eyes swept the room, quick, purposeful, and I knew in that moment he was looking for me. He didn't see me. I was shadow against concrete. He looked toward the front row. Confused, maybe. But the line kept moving. He turned forward again, took his seat with the rest. The ceremony began. A dean welcomed the crowd, thanked donors, complimented the graduates. People clapped at the right places. Someone dropped a program. The air carried the scent of perfume, floor wax, and sweat beneath gowns. Then came the jokes. Let's take a moment to recognize our proud parents and families, the speaker said, smiling too wide. And how nice it is to see everyone dressed for the occasion. I think we can all agree, it's easier to celebrate when families come looking presentable. Laughter. Polite, but unmistakable. I didn't flinch. But I noticed the way people turned slightly toward the front rows, then away again. The woman behind me shifted in her seat, half glancing over her shoulder at my boots, my jacket. The usher who had blocked me earlier was now whispering to someone in a suit. I caught the word, remove. Then I saw him. Security. A guard in black slacks and a blue windbreaker moving through the aisle. Not fast. Not loud. But deliberate. He spoke to the usher. She pointed, right at me. He walked over. Sir, he said, not unkindly. I'm gonna ask you to come with me. I have an invitation, I replied, reaching into my coat. He looked at it. Read it. Handwritten. No seal. No barcode. I understand, he said. But we have to go by credentials. That's my son, I said. He asked me to sit in the front. I hear you, he replied. But you're not listed. I didn't move. I wasn't loud. I just stood there, holding that folded card like it meant something. Because it did. It's not about causing a scene, he said. It's about protocol. If you don't come voluntarily, I'm supposed to call for assistance. In the silence between us, I heard my name. They'd started the roll call. Graduates were standing now, row by row, walking to the stage. Applause. Names. Degrees. I folded the card again, slowly, slipped it back into my pocket. Then another voice. "You need something?" It came from the audience. The guard turned. I followed his gaze. Row 5. 6 men stood up at once. They didn't say anything else at first. Just stood. Still. Solid. Like stone pillars in a room full of paper. The man closest to the aisle stepped forward. Short hair. Broad chest. No suit jacket, just a black shirt, sleeves rolled, and a small badge pinned near his heart. It was a trident. Navy SEAL. He walked up to the guard. Not fast. Not aggressive. Just sure. "That man doesn't leave this room," he said. The guard paused. "Sir, He stays. He led us through hell." He turned and looked at me. Eyes locked. Not a flicker of doubt in them. And then I knew him. Rodriguez. We hadn't spoken in 12 years. I hadn't seen Rodriguez since the night we evacuated the south compound under fire. He'd taken a round to the CAF and still managed to drag a radioman twice his size through a canal thick with sludge and shrapnel. I remember patching his leg in the dark, both of us crouched behind a shattered wall, praying the bird would come back for a second pass. I never knew what happened to him after that. Now he was here. In a college auditorium, standing between me and a guard. He turned slightly and nodded once to the others. 5 men rose from their seats. None wore uniforms, but their posture told the story. Shoulders squared, hands still, expressions hard as stone. I didn't need to see their faces to know them. I'd trained with them. Bled beside them. Watched some of them hold the line when others folded. They moved forward without spectacle, the way professionals do. One of them, a tall man with a slight limp, stopped beside Rodriguez. He looked the guard in the eye. "You call someone to remove him, you'll need a lot more than a phone," he said quietly. The guard raised his hand slightly. "Look, I don't want trouble." "You already have it," Rodriguez said, voice flat. "You just don't know what kind." One of the men stepped closer to me. Jenkins. Recon. Soft-spoken, always carried extra ammo without being told. He didn't look at me, just stood beside me, facing forward. I heard murmurs from the crowd. Somebody gasped. Phones were lifted. A low hum of tension spread across the room like static before lightning. Then a new voice broke through. Deeper. Older. I can confirm his identity. A man in full dress blues stood up from the end of the aisle. His ribbons gleamed under the overhead lights. A single silver eagle shone on his lapel. He carried the calm authority of someone long past the need to prove himself. He stepped forward. "That man is Master Sergeant Raymond Cole," he said. "Retired. United States Marine Corps. Afghanistan. Fallujah. Sanjin." He carried 5 of us out of a burning compound under active fire. Myself included. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy. A collective inhalation held just above sound. The speaker on stage stammered for a moment, then stepped back. Then I saw movement near the platform. The students were shifting. My son stepped out of his row. He moved calmly, each step deliberate, the way I'd taught him when he was small: don't run unless it's toward someone who needs you. He reached the podium, leaned into the microphone. "That's my dad," he said. He didn't say it loud. He didn't need to. I'm proud because of him. Not because of what he did. But because of how he kept doing it, quietly, all these years. He looked at me. And then, he saluted. Right hand to brow. Elbow locked. Clean. My breath caught. I didn't return it. Not yet. Because I couldn't move. Not from pride. From something deeper. Something like being seen for the first time after standing in the same place for years. Rodriguez stepped back. The others did too. Slowly. Not in retreat, but in reverence. Like a ceremony had begun and they were letting it unfold. The guard didn't speak. Didn't move. No one did. Then the colonel, God, I couldn't remember his name just then, turned to the crowd. This man earned more than a seat, he said. He earned our silence. Let him sit where he was asked to sit. And then, without prompting, the entire row parted. A path opened. No fanfare. No music. Just space made, like a door had always been there, waiting to be found. I walked forward. Step by step. The old rhythm returning. My back straightened. The pain in my knee disappeared for just a moment. Rodriguez gave a slight nod as I passed. The colonel put a hand briefly on my shoulder. My son held my gaze, then returned to his place. And me, I walked to the front row. Finally. I took the seat quietly. No one clapped. No one needed to. The silence was its own kind of ovation, deeper, heavier, earned. I sat third from the left. Just like the note said. The paper in my pocket felt warmer now, like it remembered too. My hands rested on my knees, my breath steadying. For the first time in hours, I felt present. Not tolerated. Not misplaced. Present. The ceremony resumed. They tried to pick up where they'd left off, but the tempo had changed. The voice on the microphone trembled slightly, less rehearsed, more human. Names were called again. One by one, graduates rose, walked across the stage, received their diplomas. Some glanced toward me. A few nodded. I wasn't sure if they knew what had happened or just sensed something had shifted in the air, like the room had realigned itself around something long buried. Then my son's name was called. He walked up slow. Shoulders back. Chin high. His robe moved with a kind of calm purpose, as if the fabric itself knew this moment was more than a ceremony, it was a marker. The crossing of two lives into the same light. He accepted his diploma, shook hands, turned to face the crowd. Then, instead of walking down the aisle with the rest, he stepped to the mic again. This degree belongs to both of us, he said, voice steady. To the man who showed me how to carry weight without complaint. He turned to look at me. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. He taught me how to stand when others fall. And how to keep standing when no one's looking. He reached into his robe, pulled out a folded slip of paper. I wrote a note weeks ago, he said. It wasn't official. But it was mine. It said, front row, Dad. You earned it. He looked out at the audience. I didn't expect the world to understand that. I just hoped someone would remember what matters. Then he stepped down. No flourish. No wave. Just walked to me and stood in front of my seat. He didn't say a word. He just extended his hand. I stood. Took it. And then, he saluted again. I returned it this time. Not quickly. Not out of formality. I raised my hand slow, deliberate, like something sacred. The kind of salute you give a flag lowered at dusk. A man buried with honors. A moment that doesn't need sound to hold weight. He dropped his salute and stepped into an embrace. I hadn't held him that tightly since the day his mother died. The seals stood again. This time, they didn't say anything. They just stood at attention. And one by one, others followed. Not just soldiers. Not just veterans. The audience rose. No one clapped. They just stood. A reverent, unified stillness. The kind of silence you don't break. The kind that carries a weight louder than any applause. In that silence, a woman from the audience stepped forward. I didn't know her. She had a small black box in her hands. One of the seals nodded to her. She opened it. Inside was a challenge coin, matte silver, etched with 3 words on one side, honor. Endure. Lead. On the back, the quiet ones lead the loudest wars. She placed it in my hand. Then stepped back. No speech. No explanation. She didn't need one. I closed my fingers around the coin. It was cold. It would stay that way for a while. Some things carry the chill of truth longer than others. The ceremony ended not long after. But no one rushed to the exits. They lingered. Some came to shake my hand. Some just nodded. Rodriguez caught my eye on the way out. He gave a sharp, short nod, the kind you exchange when no words are needed, when survival has already spoken everything there is to say. The colonel walked over last. He looked tired. Not from the day. From history. You did your part, he said. More than once. You just never asked to be seen. I looked around. The chairs. The stage. The path I'd walked. I didn't need to be seen, I said. Just needed one person to remember. He clapped my shoulder once and left. I stood there a while longer. Letting it sink in. The weight. The recognition. The simple dignity of being named, not as a symbol, but as a man. The auditorium emptied slowly, like a tide pulling back from shore. I stayed seated in that front row. My son beside me. Neither of us in a hurry. The lights softened overhead. Staff gathered programs, straightened chairs. But for that moment, time had let go of its grip. He looked at me, quietly, not for approval, just to anchor himself. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. I'm here. That was all I needed to be. We walked out together. Down the steps. Into a day bright with wind and the smell of cut grass. A few people stopped us. Some shook my hand. One woman thanked me, didn't say why, didn't need to. It was in her voice. In the way she held her child's hand tightly. Outside, the seals waited near the flagpole. Rodriguez handed me a second coin. This one was simpler, just a black disc with a single star on one side. For the ones who don't ask for anything, he said. Then he looked at my son. You turned out all right. My son smiled. He raised me quiet, he said. But solid. Jenkins, the quiet one, stepped forward and handed me a folded cloth. Inside was a photo, grainy, old. Me. Them. The canal. Our boots in the muck. Our eyes squinting against smoke. We kept it, he said. Didn't know if we'd see you again. Thought it might matter someday. I held the photo like something fragile. Not from age. From memory. I don't know what to say, I murmured. Don't say anything, Rodriguez replied. You already did. Back then. They left without another word. A line of shadows stretching out before them. 2 weeks later, the school sent a letter. They were adding a permanent fixture in the auditorium foyer, dedicated to veterans who had directly impacted the lives of graduates. My name would be included. Alongside my son's. Not as a father. Not as a symbol. As a man who showed up. They asked for a photo. I sent the one from the canal. Time passed the way it does when it's not forced. Softly. Some days I woke early. Others, not at all. The jacket stayed hung by the door. Clean now. Retired. My son started a job at the shelter downtown. Said he wanted to help animals. They're like us, he said. They carry more than they show. He invited me once. I went. Didn't speak much. Just helped fix a broken latch, held a pup while they trimmed its nails. It felt good. Not noble. Just good. One day, a local paper asked to run a story on the graduation. Word had gotten out. A reporter called me. Can we talk? She asked. People want to know what happened that day. Nothing happened, I said. I showed up. Someone saw. She was quiet a beat. Then she asked, what would you want written, if anything? I thought about it. Then said, that I was invited. That I came. That they tried to send me away. And that someone stood. She ran that quote alone. No headline. No picture. Just a column of space with those 3 lines. I clipped it and kept it in the same pocket as the note. A month later, the university held a small gathering. No stage. Just a stone bench set under a tree behind the auditorium. They'd etched a few lines onto the backrest. The quiet ones lead the loudest wars. In honor of Master Sergeant Raymond Cole. For showing us how to stand. I went alone. Sat on it for a while. The wind rustled the leaves above. A student passed with a coffee and nodded at me. No recognition in her eyes. Just kindness. That was enough. One morning, my son asked if I'd come speak to a group of students. Veterans in transition. Some older than him. Some barely 20. He said they needed stories, not headlines, not myths. Real ones. Ground-level ones. I said I'd try. I told them about waiting by the wall. About holding a note that didn't matter to anyone but me. About how sometimes the loudest moment in a man's life is the one where he says nothing, stays still, and lets someone else speak on his behalf. I didn't mention the SEALs. Didn't need to. I just said this. There will come a time when someone forgets what you carried. What you gave. And it'll hurt. But if just one person remembers, you haven't been erased. The room was quiet when I finished. No one clapped. But a young man at the back stood. Just stood. No words. I nodded to him. He nodded back. I understood. That was enough. I didn't come for recognition. I came because my son left a note. That was enough. But the room rose, not because I asked, but because they owed it. Some carry more than their share. And sometimes, justice walks in on worn boots, and the world remembers how to stand.